Kaveh Madani, welcome to the program.
Uh, Thanks for having me on the show.
Can I just ask you, what do you make of the leadership in Iran basically warning people about protests, saying that if they do protest, they are simply falling into the trap of enemies such as United States and what they call the Zionists? What do you make of that?
I mean, these are very hard times for Iran. When the external pressure on Iran increases, I think things get worse for the people over there because if now they have any sort of peaceful, I would say, protest, it can be interpreted as alliance with the enemies, and I think that's what makes things tricky. And that's why the external pressure might function in a wrong way, actually. And those who are trying to get some sort of things done actually get the opposite results.
So, in other words, we've heard that the Trump administration believes that they can, quote unquote, break Iran. You heard President Trump reach out to the Iranian people when he pulled the US out of the Iranian nuclear deal. But you think it could have the opposite effect?
It's an interesting statement when you say you stand by the people of Iran and you call them terrorists or ban them from entry to the United States, and then you say you stand by them, and then you impose sanctions, and all of these would result in the situation becoming worse for the people of Iran and those who President Trump and others claim to be worried about. So breaking in Iran is not an easy thing, as we have seen, and I think miscalculations on the Western side are significant. Plus, you're putting people in the middle of a battle between forces, and things won't get better necessarily. So breaking Iran is a big claim, and I'm not sure if it's backed up by enough facts and a good understanding of how things work in the Middle East as a whole and in Iran in particular.
Well, you said about people getting caught up between the different forces there. You are a classic example of that. Here you are, a scientist, a water expert. You were doing your job at Imperial College, one of the most prestigious universities in the world, and you were asked back to Iran by the Rouhani government to work in their much needed environmental and water issues. How did you get caught up between the hardliners and the Rouhani moderates?
So my case is unusual, and for perhaps the first try in 40 years that they reached out, a person abroad, established and doing his job, asking for help. But I go home, and this becomes a positive thing. It becomes a credit for Rouhani's government, which is doing a good thing. It's a new thing, and then the hardliners are not happy with any sort of thing, which gives credit to the to Rouhani's administration on one side, plus to people who break down borders. I think if you look at my case and compare it with the rest of the people, and some of these people who are in jail and have got into trouble, the whole problem with us is that, like, we are breaking down the borders, like what JCPOA can do. Like, when diplomacy works, and when Iran becomes friendlier with other nations, hardliners, no matter where they are, whether in the United States, whether in Israel, whether in Iran, get nervous.
Let's talk about the sort of compromat, if we can take that term from what the Russians are brilliant at. When you arrived, they took your devices, right? They downloaded all the stuff you had from before you ever set foot in Iran.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it was shocking. I walked in thinking that I'm something, like I'm the deputy vice president of the country or deputy head of Iran's Department of Environment, so I have some sort of protection. No, it wasn't like that. For 6-7 months, they tried to prove that I'm a spy. They had like 14 years of emails. They knew where I was, all details of my life, like, private life, and they tried hard to prove that. I knew that I'm not a spy. I'm not working for any foreign service, intelligence service, and I'm in love with my country, and I've done anything I could in years of abroad for helping my country, for helping my nation, because I care about it. I still care about it, and my science was my weapon. And when things didn't work out, they tried to release some old photos of mine in which if 5 years ago dancing in San Francisco in an award ceremony and saying that a person with that condition dancing is not, I think, eligible to serve as the deputy vice president of an Islamic state.
But let's get to the heart of this, because what is very, very troubling, in addition to what personally happened to you and what professionally happened to you, is what's happening to other environmentalists in Iran. There is a huge number who have been arrested and remain languishing in jail. Sayed Emami died in jail. His family believe he was killed. The Iranians say he committed suicide. Why is the environment the hardliners' new political front line? Why do they call environmentalists spies and enemies of the state?
Part of the problem is the fact that some of those guys involved in environmental activism were dual nationals. And again, an international person who understands the life values in Iran and life values in the West and can function in both sides and can live in both sides and can communicate to both sides can be a scary person to the hardliners. Having enemies and walls are essential to survival of the hardliners, I believe. The other thing is that environment has been some sort of a free space, a place to people to show madness, to criticize the government on different things, and even result in some sort of environmental populism. So if you're concerned about economy, if you're not happy with the political system, if you have any other sorts of complaints and you cannot express them, still you have environment where you can open up and you can say whatever you want. Environment can become really connected to the demonstrations, tensions, and all these things, and that has become, I think, to an extent scary for the government, that we have seen some uprisings, some sort of tensions in different regions in Iran related to water shortage, related to environmental problems, related to dust storms, related to dry up of the Lake Urumia, and these are not really easy things for the government to handle.
Well, exactly. And apparently their own meteorological department says something like 97% of the country is suffering from drought. But they have all these sort of conspiracy theories, and they accuse environmentalists of stopping the weather. I mean, they called you an environmentalist terrorist. They called you a bio-terrorist. Because of, from what I gather, their mismanagement of the environment and of water is causing so much discontent and so many protests now that they're trying to figure out how to head that off.
I mean, remember that water, environment, dust storms, these cannot be the main cause of protest. At the end of the day, people come out in the street for economic reasons. They have salary issues and they have payment issues. But when your economy or your political economy or social economy is dependent on water, and when people lose jobs because of water shortage, farmers lose jobs and farmers lose income, a lot can happen. And we all are familiar with the things which happen in Syria as a related to a drought, which function as a catalyst to make tensions worse in that region.
That's really important what you say, because I don't know how many people remember that it was water shortage and drought and mismanagement of water that were the first manifestations of mass unrest in Syria.
So yeah, I mean, water was not the cause of ISIS, but water was a catalyst. When there was a water shortage, when farmers lost jobs, when they migrated to cities, started living in suburbs, then economic inequalities, tensions, and then people can carry guns and kill each other. I mean, this is not out of the game, and these things can happen in the developing world, in poor economies, and now we see the consequences for years. So Iran's political economy is also dependent on water. If you haven't decoupled your economy from water, water shortage can affect your economy. And this is the situation. People lose jobs as a result of water shortage. In the past few weeks, they have been getting rains and people were like, aha, look at it. Like, now we're getting a lot of rain. Kaveh Madani is gone. Kaveh Madani is dead, and the rest are in jail. They cannot control the weather anymore.
That's incredible. So what do you think will happen to people inside Iran, ordinary citizens who are affected by these decades of mismanagement, certainly mismanagement of the environment that's affecting their bottom line? What if they rise up again? Do you think they'll be crushed?
Iran is now suffering from serious water shortage and a lot of battle and regional fights over water transfer projects. So we would see more and more tensions. We would see conflicts at the lower levels, and increased tension can result in, so water shortage can function as a trigger to a larger problem. Right now, it just, keep your eyes on the skies and hope that there would be a rain and things get better. That's how we're managing the system, and we're looking for band-aid solution, trying to fix one problem, and then we create new problems. This is how we have managed water in the developing world and in Iran. And unfortunately, still the West does not understand how things work in that part of the world. We are seeing problems which are unprecedented. People would suffer for decades from these problems which were created by bad governance and by years of conflicts and wars. Environmental problems do not respect our geographical borders. They do not respect, time, and they can go across borders and across time. So generations after us would suffer from the environmental problems there. And unfortunately, the decision makers, the intelligence services, and the governments of the region miscalculated all these things and never saw them.
Kaveh Madani, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.